it has great scope for characters, for descriptions of cities, for social and economic themes. And I just love the way that you can work all of this into a crime novel. My novel is about crime in a sort of educational background. And I mean, that's not really a mix that one would think of, but because I like crime so much, I was determined to write a crime novel, even though I wanted to say something about education as well. It was a kind of task that I set myself.
I think with me it was the love for crime novels that I have. I read all types of crime, and I really, some of them are rubbish, and I would read them and sort of think, perhaps I could do better than that, and then I would try and do something that was about entertainment. For me, it was always about wanting to, instead of trying to do great writing, I wanted to have a great read. Because it's the kind of thing that I do when I read, is I want to switch off, I want to be transported to somewhere else and be entertained. And so that was the whole thing behind me, was crime was something that allowed me to write a book that was entertaining, that was fast-paced, that expected me to deliver entertainment rather than something incredibly important. And although I think there's a massive place in literature for that, I didn't think it's the kind of thing that I wanted to do. So crime for me was just my natural home. I read it all the time, and it was something that allowed me to write an entertaining read. But I still like to talk about dealing with some of the issues and topics that are important. We shared a panel in France about slavery and trafficking, and even though the Redemption Song is an entertaining novel, it still deals with a rather traumatic thing about human trafficking. And so it was always about finding an issue that was not entertaining, and the challenge is still to put it in a way that people don't feel that they're being preached to, but still they learn something about the way the world works.
Tell us about the research that went to your novel to write it. I'm sure you did some research with regards to the crime scenes, police work and stuff.
I did absolutely no research as far as this is concerned. I was listening last night to Peter James and Dion Mayer, and they both have hooked up seriously to police force. I think Dion Mayer has a very good relationship with the Hawks, and Peter James has a great relationship with his Essex, I think he did, police force, Brighton police force. But that's not where I came from. I knew I wanted to write about the bush. I knew I wanted to write about wildlife, birds, insects, and so on. And I wanted a detective who lived in the bush and loved it. And that gave him the reason to be there. It gave me the reason to write about what I enjoy, the elephants, the rhinos, and so on. And to research a little bit. And so I suppose that's where it came from me, was environment, first and foremost. I was working for an organisation called the Historic Schools Restoration Project, which was looking at how to restore the mission schools that had been really destroyed by the Bantu Education Act of 1953. And doing that job taught me everything I know about the mission schools. When I decided to write the book, I knew that because I had a full-time job, I didn't actually have that much time to research. So that was sort of factored into my decision to write about education, was that I already had found out quite a lot through working on these mission schools about the mission schools. So it made it kind of easier. I mean, of course, there's always little researches that you have to do, but the sort of basic was there already.
I think with me, the thing that makes me pick up a novel from the shelf is what's accompanying the crime. So we know that when we read crime, we're pretty much going to be following a detective story. There's going to be a puzzle that's going to be resolved in one way or another. And the thing that makes me buy one book over another is the backdrop to that story. So whether it's about identity, whether it's about trafficking, whether it's about cults, which Flaming Dream was about, and then this one is about the psychology of the sniper. I'll take a subject that I'm interested in, that I want to know more about, and then I'll research it. And then from there, the trick is to try and introduce some of the information without overwhelming the reader with things that you think are important that you found out. Because I've read those kind of books where you get bogged down in the research and it stops being entertaining. And I often think, if I wanted to read a book about cults, I would buy a book about cults. I'm reading a detective novel here, and I'd like to know something about cults, but not at the expense of the action. So for me, it's definitely making sure that I'm confident enough to use the research that I found, but not overwhelming the story with it. So I do tons of research on the internet, and I think I always imagined myself as sort of like, getting lots of books and doing research that way, but it doesn't really work that way anymore. You've got a global resource in the internet, and I use it a lot. And when you're using a country like Albania that very few people have been to, it's great to get onto YouTube and just, sometimes people will just video themselves just driving through the countryside. And I would sort of get lost in these videos for ages of just people, the way people look, the way that they smile, the way that they express themselves, and their body language was different to maybe an Eastern European would sort of like have a different body language to a Western European person. And so that kind of incidental research is really helpful because I can't sit in a cafe in Albania and observe in the same way that I can do in England or in South Africa. So the internet really helps you. But I think what you need to do is just control that urge to show off how much you've learned, and basically just put in enough to sort of whet people's appetite and expose them to a new topic without then trying to show that you're awfully clever and know a lot about it.